Yo guys, what is going on? JPS back for another video, and today we're going to be reacting to why Europe doesn't build skyscrapers. Skyscrapers, the lovely things that cloud the skies in every major American city that we, as Americans, all know and love, right? No, they're disgusting. They make everything look terrible, and honestly, I didn't even know Europe didn't build skyscrapers until this video idea came about, but this is going to be an interesting one. So hit the like button, hit subscribe, consider joining the Patreon. First link in description. We've been reacting to some serious stuff recently. Just watched Kind Hearts and Coronets. It's going to be the movie dropping today for our Friday film night. So you don't want to miss the stuff over there, and I'd really appreciate the support. Completely up to you, but check it out. First link in description. Here we go.
Why aren't there many skyscrapers in Europe? Despite being one of the most developed, densely populated and economically prosperous continents, Europe has surprisingly few skyscrapers, particularly when compared to Asia and North America. Of the 218 skyscrapers constructed on the continent to date, 66% of them are located in just 5 cities: London, Paris, Frankfurt, Moscow and Istanbul. So why have other major European cities not embraced the skyscraper? How do they thrive without the significant inner urban space and floor areas that these clever structures provide? And is everything about to change in our increasingly urbanized world?
I was going to say, okay, so it's not all of Europe, because I do remember seeing some skyscraper-like structures when I was in London, but that is still crazy that 66% are in like 5 major cities. Like, what about the rest of them? Wow.
When skyscrapers first rose to prominence in the 19th century,
New York,
first in Chicago and later in New York, many European cities were already firmly established, with grand historic buildings and public spaces that left little room for large new structures. Most of Europe's cities around that time were also more evenly zoned, and were not facing the high demand for floor space in key districts that typically drives high-rise development. Additionally, as the power and influence of North America began to grow, a cultural rivalry emerged between Americans who saw Europe's class system as outdated, and Europeans who saw some American ideals as eroding traditions and the European way of life. As a result, each continent became wary of adopting the other's concepts. While North America aims to become the model for a new age, Europe sought to preserve its heritage. While this explains why skyscraper construction didn't initially catch on in Europe, it doesn't explain what has held the continent back since.
Brusselsization?
While Brussels has never constructed a true skyscraper, it is partly responsible for the lack of skyscrapers across the continent. Without any significant zoning regulations in place, the 1960s saw many buildings in the city demolished to make way for large, modern structures that had little regard for architectural or cultural value. Recognizing the damage this indiscriminate redevelopment was doing to the city, many prominent figures and architects coined the term Brusselization and lobbied to introduce new planning laws. These regulations significantly limited the scale of new buildings and required historic facades to be restored and incorporated into new developments, preserving the cultural fabric of the city. The row in Brussels led to a general dislike for modern buildings across Europe, with many seeing them as bland or soulless. In response, numerous cities adopted similar regulations and set aside controlled districts, like Paris's La Défense, to keep high-rise development away from historic centres.
Yo, that is amazing. That makes so much sense. Oh, man. We always check out these European things. It just makes me jealous.
By the start of the 21st century, attitudes around tall buildings were softening across the continent, as architectural trends moved away from box-like structures towards more unique designs, and as the world became increasingly globalized.
Yeah.
Since the early 2000s, major financial centres like London, Paris, Moscow, Istanbul and Frankfurt have seen several skyscrapers rise, as demand for commercial space in their centres has increased. By contrast, smaller European cities that have been experiencing more modest growth have turned their focus to the environment and improving living standards for citizens.
Vertical gardens, okay.
In recent years, urban areas in Scandinavia and Central Europe have consistently ranked among the highest in the world for sustainability, happiness and well-being, while maintaining importance within their national economies. However, skyscraper construction in the cities of today is no longer driven purely by economic growth or the need for commercial office space. With 60% of the global human population set to be living in urban areas by 2030, residential skyscrapers are now rising in prominence, particularly across Asia and North America. As many traditional rural-based industries become automated, millions are migrating into cities and major urban areas, driving significant demand for residential space that is often met with high-rise structures. Europe is not immune to this phenomenon, particularly in such a heavily globalised world, and with the continent's desire to keep up with the progress and economic growth of China and the US. As such, Europe could witness a skyscraper boom in the decades ahead.
Definitely.
However, with entire urban centres now being declared historically significant, and with the desire to retain as much culture and architecture as possible rightly holding strong up to the present day, the unique challenge facing future skyscraper construction in Europe is all to do with the past.
Okay.
If you enjoyed this video and would like to get more from the definitive video channel for construction,
Yo, that was a really good video. It's interesting. So why Europe doesn't build skyscrapers? Because they want to preserve the history of the city, which I completely get. I think an argument for why the United States or cities in the United States don't have that at the top of their list of priorities is because we don't have as much history. I mean, especially if you go out west, like some of these cities are not very old. There's buildings here and there, and of course those are preserved, but it's not like we have like magnificent structures like every block you walk down, you know what I mean? So there's certainly that difference between Europe and the United States that I thought needed to be addressed, because it's pretty prominent when you think about why we also we're capitalist. United States is capitalist. We're going to go where that money goes, and the money's in those skyscrapers and building new financial centers and financial districts, keeping those growing. So that was a really good video, though. I really enjoyed looking back at like the history and why things are the way they are. It will be interesting to see how that war is waged between the two sides of wanting to grow but also wanting to preserve. How will that combat like go over the next few decades? I guess it'll be interesting. Time will tell. Just got to see with time. But thank you all so much for watching. Hit the like button, hit subscribe if you want to, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.